Hello everyone, please press subscribe, press follow, press the bell so you don't miss any new clips. Adorable treasured fox divine doctor mother overturning the heavens. Author by Co. Chi Yi. Audio novels by Novelist. Chapter 161, Take the Fall 3. By Xuanhuan extended his hand like he's offering a treasure. In his palm was a jade token in which he stole from the bratty princess back when he deliberately pushed her. Narrowing his tiger eyes, Little Rice accusingly asked, "Don't tell me you intend to have the princess take the fall for you." As expected, you know me the best. I guess all my effort of feeding you all my shit and piss when you were an infant paid off. Proudly raising his little head, Bai Xuanhuan was utterly shameless when he revealed the horrific past. Note: the shit and piss thing is an old saying in Chinese of how one used their sweat and blood to raise a kid. But the author here added in the feeding word to turn it into a joke. Someone has to take the fall anyways. Previously he had always used his friend here, but now that there's someone else, why wouldn't he use them? Stunned by the boy's wrong wording, Little Rice attempts to correct the saying. Don't you mean I shit and piss to raise you, not I fed you shit and piss? No, I didn't say it wrong. Back when we first picked you up, my mother still hasn't met my 3 grandchefs yet. We were constantly roaming around outside, yet mother wouldn't let us eat any of the demon beasts out there. Worst part of all, you were such a picky eater, not willing to partake in any of the fruits or veggies we had. No other choice, I can only feed you my piss and shit. Hearing this, Little Rice's baby face completely went dark with a strong tinge of green in his face. Oh, what to do? I want to run away. How can they abuse me like that just because I don't understand anything back then? Then why don't I remember any of this? Twitching in his tiger mouth, Little Rice's voice clearly sounded soppy. As a descendant of the great white tiger race, how can he have fallen to this state? That's what you get for being so dumb, not knowing anything. Unhappy over his friend's accusing tone, Bai Xuanhuan pinches his mouth to the side. In this moment, the baby tiger really wanted to cry. How can you say that? Who in the world can be fully self-conscious upon birth and transform into their human form in 2 months? Ah, it's getting late, we better move. Otherwise that baddie will bully my mother again. Wrinkling his cute little forehead as soon as he noticed the hour, Bai Xuanhuan quickly scurried up to the wall once he figured no one else was looking. Little Rice, you go inside first. Immediately scanning their surroundings, the little boy was overjoyed when he noticed a tree growing nearby. Yes, I don't have to crawl through a dog hole again. First allowing the baby tiger to climb up the branches, he then transformed and turned into a snow-white fox himself. Together, they easily bounced over the wall with a few jumps using the overcasting branches. You go that and I go this way. We will move faster like that. After firmly landing on his paws, a cunning light soon flashed across those foxy eyes. Shuddering at the order, Little Rice had no illusion over what sort of fate awaited himself if Daikang learns of this. But then thinking of his mistress, he can only resolve himself for the worse. In one dash, he flew out in the direction indicated by his little friend. Ellipsis. Back over at the old manor. The man's hand was tightly wound around the peach tree while his lips pressed down against the woman underneath him. Master, it's not good, something big has happened. Just as the man's red lips would take its prize, a flustered voice from behind interrupted his good deed. In that second, a dreaded gloom was hovering over that handsome face. What's the matter? Terrified to the point where the reporting soldier had to crawl due to the numbness in his legs, the Kang Manor is on fire. We've tried putting out the flames, but it's so intense that we couldn't control it. Set fire to my estate. Now this was very strange for Daikang. He knows for a fact that none in this kingdom would dare have the audacity to pull off such a deed. All of a sudden, the handsome gaze shifted back to Bai Yan. His lips curling into a divine smirk. Chapter 162, Take the Fall 4. If anyone was bold enough, there's only this one woman. What do you look at me for? Bai Yan sends an eyeful at Daikang. I'm not the one setting fire to your place. I know it's not you, but Aside from you, there's another person who has such courage. Jolting wide in her eyes, Bai Yan can pretty much guess where this was leading to. It can't be Xuanhuan, right? Mother. It was at this moment a small little body rushed over and flew into Bai Yan's arms. Raising his cuddly face, Bai Xuanhuan made a delightful greeting, "I'm back, mother." "Where did you go just now?" Noticing the gloomy face from the man across from herself, Bai Yan carefully asked. Blinking with confusion in his little eyes, he sounded so innocent that it's hard to question his sincerity. "I went for a stroll outside and met a certain princess along the way. After having fight with her, I then came back." "Did something happen?" "It's okay, nothing happened." Bai Yan gently rubs the little steam bun on the head and then turned back to Dai Kang. "Your place is on fire. I think it's best you go back first. She must first push this dangerous man away so she can interrogate the little troublemaker." "All right." Grinning an unclear smile, "I will surely investigate this matter with the fire to its source." Despite jumping incessantly in his poor little heart, Bai Xuanhuan continues to keep up his false face. "Father's place is on fire. But it was just fine when I last saw it." "We're leaving." Dai Kang was cold in his voice as he gave the command to the soldiers that came to report. Ellipsis. After waiting until that enchanting figure was gone from sight, Bai Yan quickly skimped down to her son's height and earnestly asked, "Tell me truth, was the fire set by you? Who told him to bully you?" Puffed up in his cheeks, the boy looked absolutely adorable with his angered face. "And if I didn't set the fire, would the man have left?" Tightly biting her lips, Bai Yan showed a rather rarely seen stern expression. "Remember, if anyone asks you about this again, you must deny all involvement. Otherwise, I will send you back the Holy Island immediately." Dai Kang's brain wasn't stupid, just a little thinking would be enough for him to deduce it's Xuanhuan who caused the whole fire. However, it's fine as long as her son doesn't admit it. Making an apologetic hug at his mother's body, the baby boy sounded rather pitiful right now. "I won't do it anymore, please don't send me back." Pleased by her son's attitude, Bai Yan was in no position to get angry. After all, it was for her own sake that the boy did it. Ellipsis. After Dai Kang left the old manor, he did not hurry back to his residence as everyone expected. Instead, he stopped and turned back to the soldier behind himself. "Tell me, who else went to my place today?" There was no one else who came. However, Six Princess, she did stay outside for a while without coming inside. Respectful in his demeanor, the soldier carefully offers up a jade token with the letter 6 etched on it to his lord. "This is the Six Princess's jade token. Forgive my boldness, I suspect. Six Princess. No, she doesn't have that sort of courage." Curving his lips into a smirk, Dai Kang didn't need to keep looking at the object anymore. "Then should I go back and continue the investigation?" The guard was literally pouring in sweat as he asked, afraid he might say something wrong here for his failure. "No need." Dai Kang's gaze turned sharp. "Take the token and go to the palace. Say it's the Sixth Princess who set the fire." Completely surprised here, the soldier didn't understand what's going on. Didn't his lord say the princess didn't have the courage? But before the servant can ask why, Dai Kang's cold and indifferent voice drifted over again. "My son said it's the Sixth Princess's fault, then it's her, understand?" Paralyzed, the soldier didn't know how to respond to this. "The young lord. This matter is related to the little boy. It can't be, the fire was done by the young lord. And the young lord intends to pin the blame on the Sixth Princess. And now the man here also intends to have the princess take the fall even though he knows." Chapter 163, The Unlucky Princess 1. Dai Kang coldly swept his gaze to the soldier. "What are you still standing here for?" "Orc." Freezing there for a second, the poor man meekly replied, "Master, are we not going back for the fire? The flames were so ferocious that water alone cannot extinguish it. Unless Dai Kang makes a move, it's likely the whole estate will turn to ash by the end of the day. No need. The fire will not expand outwards. When the manor is gone, the fire will naturally disperse on its own." Making a rosy smile, Dai Kang was rather good in his attitude here. As for the guards, have them all transferred over here. Just as the soldier was still left in a daze there, the stunning figure was already gone and mixed into the bustling streets. Ellipsis. Inside the palace. The sixth princess was dozing away in her little nap when the door was forcefully knocked open. Rushing in were a line of royal guards. How dare you? Changing in her face, the princess slammed the table and yelled with anger in her voice, "Who allowed you people to barge into my bedroom without permission?" Coinciding with that question, the guards fanned out into 2 rows to make room for a middle-aged man to come through. Donning a bright yellow robe, this person had a very sharp look when facing the girl. Father. Now she was dumbfounded. What's going on? Why is father bringing these royal guards along to find me? Daughter. I heard you set fire to Lord Kang's estate. Do you have anything to add to this? Xuanhuan didn't look so good in his expression, but more than that, he's very disappointed here today. This daughter was his pride, but now the girl had the audacity to commit arson. It's one thing if she didn't get caught and turned to someone she can handle, but she didn't and screwed up. Now the man in question was demanding an answer. Unless he is the king, deal with this properly, even the entire kingdom will be in peril. Full of surprise in her look, the princess exclaimed, "Father, I never set Lord Kang's place on fire. This must be a scheme to frame me." "Frame you, humph." In response, Xuanhuan heavily threw the jade token onto the floor for all to see. "If it's not you, then why was your identity pendant found inside the estate?" Looking at the jade token laid before her eyes, the girl's expression instantly went white. In her panic, she scrambled to check her chest. How can this be, and why did I lose it inside the Kang manor? All of a sudden, a certain little face surfaced in her mind. Erupting with rage in her eyes, the girl gnashes her teeth and explains herself. "It's the kid, it's that kid who stole my badge token. Father. I've been framed, it's by Yan's son who. You want to say that it's by Yan's son who set the fire?" Very displeased over her daughter's demeanor, the king actually snickered with contempt. "How can you take your father here as a fool?" Dai Kang had already openly recognized the boy as his son. Why would he set the place on fire? The sixth princess was stumped for a reply. If it wasn't that brat, then how can my jade token be at the source? Enough. Quit trying to lie about your actions. Lord Kang's people are already demanding an answer outside. Closing his eyes, the king had quite the pained look here. Guards, take my daughter away and bring her to plead for mercy in front of Lord Kang. The princess's complexion had completely turned ashen by this point. She knew arguing at this stage was pointless, so she bit her lips and took to her knees instead. Father, regardless of whether or not I did wrong here, I am still a princess of the kingdom. Forcing me to beg for mercy from a titled royalty, how will the world look at you when it becomes known? Pa. As soon as her words came out, a heavy slap went flying across her face. Covering her cheek, the sixth princess looked on with disbelief at the enraged man before herself. Chapter 164, The Unlucky Princess 2. It's my fault, it's all my fault. Xuanhuan's voice was full of regret. I originally thought none of you would go provoke him, that's why I never told you about his identity. But everything's changed now with Bai Yan's return. Prior to the girl's return, Dai Kang had already spent several years in the kingdom, yet nothing noteworthy took place. Then all of a sudden Bai Yan came back. Whether it be his favorite son, daughter, wife, everyone suddenly started to go provoke the dangerous man. Today, you must go and apologize, or the entire kingdom will be destroyed by your hands. What? Lifting her head, the sixth princess tightly bit her lips. Father, what do you mean by that? Do you know under what circumstances did I meet Dai Kang? Making a cold laugh, Xuanhuan sounded awfully weak here. I still remember it clearly. He was being chased by countless king class level masters. I believe I don't need to explain how powerful a king class martialist is, right? In our kingdom, there's only 2 people of that level. Yet, under the siege of so many powerful beings, can you guess how Dai Kang escaped their encirclement? Trembling immensely in her heart, the sixth princess clutched her hand until the pain causes her lip to go pale. Is it Daikang defeating all those king-class masters? Looking at the ashen-faced girl before himself, Xuanhuan only made a slight shake of his head to refute that suggestion. Despite that answer, the princess's unease only got worse. Tensing up until it hurts inside, the girl couldn't keep her eyes away from her father in order to pry the urgent detail that she needs. To defeat all those king-class masters, Daikang only needed one move. One move. Recalling the scene from that year, Xuanhuan still couldn't keep his nerves from shaking. Boom. Like a thunder striking straight down into her heart, absolute horror swiftly floated out of the girl's face. Now she finally understood why her father would be so afraid of the man. To think I would be so foolish as to use royal authority to pressure him into marrying me. I will never forget that scene from all those years ago. Even among those countless king-class masters, there are a few that's superior to all the rest, yet none were able to fend off his attack. In front of Daikang, we were like ants, puny and insignificant. If not for that realization, you think I, the king, would be so fearful of him. Bittersweet inside, the sixth princess lowered her eyes. Father, if you knew Daikang is that strong, then why did you bring him into our kingdom? If that man never became the sovereign prince, then maybe I wouldn't have become obsessed with this terrifying man. It's not me wanting him to come, it's him demanding to come. He said becoming a titled royalty will make his search easier. Now it seems the one he's looking for all this time is Bayan. Such a powerful man wants to be a royalty, can he refuse? Likely his own throne would be gone if he had refused back then. Feeling the great jealousy churning in her stomach, the princess had to gnaw heavily against her own jaws in order to stop the pain overflow out of her body. Father, I understand. I'll go and plead for mercy as you wish. Raising her head, there were both resentment and hatred in those eyes. The resentment was for her father here over why he didn't tell her about how terrifying Daikang was. As for the hatred, it's of course meant for Bayan stealing her man away. We'll see, Bayan, you won't get to laugh for long. In her mind, the princess was certain a man that powerful won't be sincere to a single woman. Sooner or later, Daikang will just dump her and move along for a better girl. Your Majesty, things are not good. It was at this moment a panicking eunuch came running in. Looking at all that sweat, it's pretty obvious he has urgent news to report. Chapter 165, The Unlucky Princess 3. Crown Princess, she. What happened to the Crown Princess? Xuanhuan's brow quickly wrinkled into a knot. Towards this daughter-in-law of his, he was honestly very pleased with her. The only blemish was Bairuo's inability to properly teach her son. Crown Princess, she's fainted from being beaten by the rod. But because the punishment isn't over yet, they wouldn't let anyone get close to treat her. Xuanhuan frowned, his eyes showing a flare of anger. That land shailing is too impudent. Just because he has the backing of Daikang right now doesn't mean he can make a move against the royal family. Just wait until that man stops being infatuated with Bayan. I like to see how your land house is going to survive then. Your Majesty, something big has happened. Before Xuanhuan could say anything else, another panicking voice had broken through the doorway. The royal palace is on fire and even the treasury has been burned down. Please, Your Majesty, you must flee now. What? Xuanhuan was completely angered now. Who is bold enough to burn my treasury? No. Your Majesty, the fire wasn't meant for the treasury, it was meant for the Crown Prince's place. But due to the intensity of the flames, the fire eventually spread outwards and reached the treasury. My son's place. Gloomy and dark in his face, the king's expression was unreadable here. Is it land shailing? No. The eunuch erased the sweat from his forehead. It's a young girl brought over by the eldest daughter of the land house. The girl also removed the entire back garden after seeing how beautiful the flowers were. While they were still discussing this, the reddish color of the flames were quickly reaching over to their location. Gritting his teeth, the king can only do the next logical move, quick, retreat. Fortunately for the man, he was smart enough to store the most important items inside his storage ring. Otherwise, who knows how big of a loss he would face today. Ellipsis. Still oblivious to the huge mess that's occurring inside the palace, Bai Yan was peacefully resting inside the old manor when a series of footsteps caught her attention. Opening her eyes, Yi, you are back already. Being called out so suddenly, Chu Yi literally jerked backwards out of guilt. Bai Yan, how come you were sleeping behind the fake mountain? I was waiting for you. Jumping down from her spot, she inspects the girl. Did you make any trouble? Coughing hard, no, absolutely not. It's pretty obvious here. Bai Yan didn't believe her word. Approaching the teenage girl, she reveals a threatening smile. You think I won't know just because you don't say it? Chu Yi retreated several steps again, her voice weak. All I did was steal your big cousin's rod and knocked Bai Ruo out. What she said was the truth with a slight detail missing. If Lan Shaling didn't grab the rod back right away, she would have kept going without holding back. This is nothing. What else? I burned the palace, but I didn't kill anyone innocent. And of course, she didn't bother to give the part about her stealing the flowers from the entire back garden. Twitching incessantly in the corner of her eye, Bai Yan just knew it. By letting this girl into the palace, there's bound to be trouble ahead. It's a real pity to burn it all. I heard there's a lot of silver and gold inside the treasury. You should have moved them all instead. Thinking about all those money being wasted away, Bai Yan couldn't help but feel bad for the ending. Though the wealth of this kingdom was insignificant in her eyes, but it's still money. Who can deny having too much money? Seeing her friend not getting angry, Chu Yi quickly showed a full turn around. No longer timid, she grinningly came before her friend. Chapter 166, The Unlucky Princess 4. Bai Yan, I definitely won't be so wasteful next time. If I can take anything with me, I will do that for sure. Lightly stroking her chin, Bai Yan earnestly nodded. All right, remember next not to be so wasteful next time. You should. Before she could finish her sentence, her face instantly went dark. Chu Yi didn't understand at first over her friend's strange behavior, but as soon as she turned around, she knew and was scared out of her wits. Bai Yan, I just recalled I have something to do. I'll take my leave first. As soon as the young girl said this, the frightened damsel immediately made a dash for the backyard without giving anyone a chance to stop her. Twitching in the corner of the mouth, Bai Yan grits her teeth while gazing at the enchanting man before herself. It seems you've really taken my home as your own, haven't you? Pricking his brow, my place has been burned by our son. To be clear, he said, our son, not your son. There's a difference. What evidence do you have to prove Xuanhuan is the one who started it? Whether or not it's he who started the fire, it's a fact that I'm homeless now, so of course I have to come find you. Looking at the shameless man's face, Bai Yan had to inhale very hard to keep her calm. And what if I refuse? You can. Dai Kang's quick answer was somewhat unexpected here. With surprise in her eyes, then why are you still staying here? Of course to sleep with you. Pulling the woman into his arms, the man's powerful hand quickly reached down and gently stroked the tender thigh. With every touch came a heavy jolt, causing Bai Yan to tremble incessantly with her body. Angry, she roars. You said I can refuse, so why are you not scramming? I only said you can refuse, but I didn't say I will promise you anything. Swelling upwards in his lips, an extremely seductive grin overtakes that enchanting face. Shameless. In her fit, she makes a kneecap for the man's lower half. Not dodging or stopping it, Dai Kang took it head on and only issued out a heavy grunt for the pain. Now that you've kicked me there, it's only proper that you take responsibility. I'm not very demanding, any room will do for our little sleep. Dai Kang, pulling at the collar, Bai Yan threateningly states, on the day that I become stronger than you, I will press you down until you can't turn over. And how do you want to press me? On the bed, or on the ground? Then again, 6 years ago you already did it once, so I don't mind stripping myself here to have another try. Evil in his smile, Dai Kang's gaze was starting to become very intense, like it will devour the woman before his eyes. Smearing. Bai Yan scoffed. It offers nothing more than a worthless threat. Even if you undress yourself here, you won't have the ability to do it anyways. She had already poisoned Daikin several days ago, meaning the man here can't possibly raise that thing down there. Narrowing his eyes, Dai Kang daringly pulled Bai Yan's hand for the bottom part between his knees. Then why don't you check for yourself by touching it? Bai Yan originally wanted to flare out again, but as soon as her hand came into contact with a certain hot spot, she flinched and jolted her fingers away instantly. You're supposed to be poisoned by me. How can this happen? Grinning deviously, my blood can detoxify any poison. After returning that day, it only took a few hours for the poison to be cured. Now, what else do you have in mind for me aside from your poisons? Completely dark in her face, Bai Yan hurriedly breaks free from the man's arm and retreated with haste. Dai Kang, you beast. I am a beast to begin, so calling me that isn't wrong. However, chuckling at the border of being hysteric, Dai Kang knew he's had her now. In a bit, I will show you what it means to be a real beast. That's right, Bai Yan had forgotten this guy was an animal to begin with, meaning the term beast for him wasn't wrong at all. And he's not only just an animal, he's also a very sly fox. Chapter 167, Return the Dowry 1. Staring intently at the panicking woman before himself, a provocative smile escapes that mouth to reveal what he has in mind. But then, just as he wanted to make his thoughts a reality, a resounding call broke through the sky and stopped the advancing man. With gloom hanging over his face, Dai Kang shifts his eyes upward towards the source. Likewise, Bai Yan also shifted her gaze towards the sky. What they saw was a flaming red bird of exceptional size. Once landed after swooping down onto the grass, the creature swiftly transformed into a handsome man with swaying long hair of crimson red. What's the matter? The appearance of this unwanted newcomer was like a bucket of cold water, cooling every fiber of desire out of Dai Kang's body. Against that oppressive stare, the poor man merely cried on the spot. If this wasn't so urgent, he would never had come bother his king and the future queen of the demon realm. King, a few days ago, someone forcibly broke through the seal of the demon realm. Respectful in his voice, the Crimson Man made sure there's no wasted words in his report. Who was it? Gently wrinkling his forehead, Dai Kang coldly asked. It's. Halting for a second, the red-haired man carefully glanced at Bai Yan before continuing. It was a girl called King Luan. She's the big miss of the snake tribe. King Luan of the snake tribe had long been a powerful admirer of Dai Kang. Unfortunately for the girl, her crush never once registered with the man of her crush. If not for the girl being smart enough to not do anything out of place, the snake tribe never would have survived until now. As to the reasoning behind the sudden change, it's all because of the recent news of Dai Kang finding his son. Who was it that leaked the information about me finding my son? The man's face gradually turned dangerously gloomy. The red-haired man carefully wiped his forehead to remove some of the excess sweat. It was the princess, your sister. After she learned of your success, Her Highness couldn't resist and announced it to everyone that she knew. Now the whole demon realm is aware. Having said this, he looked up to peek at his king's expression. Knowing things are just going to get worse if he delays this, he bit his lip and went ahead with the rest. Also, after King Luan left, the princess also snuck away. Getting colder and colder in his eyes, the air around Dai Kang's body could literally freeze a person right now if they got too close. If you find that girl, bring her to see me immediately. Then what should we do with Miss King Luan? The red-haired man cautiously asked. A touch of frost beamed out of the man's gaze, his voice cruel and merciless. Cut off her hands and legs, then toss her back into the demon realm. If that King Luan knows what's good for herself, then that's fine, but if she dares to commit anything foolish, then the demon realm no longer needs a snake tribe in its ranks. Yes, King, your servant here shall obey. Getting up from his knees, the red-haired man immediately reverted back into his bestial form under a blinding firelight. In only a few flaps, his presence was already gone from view, disappearing into the beautiful blue horizon. A tad unsettled in her voice, Bai Yan carefully asked, "That King Luan of the snake tribe, is she here for me in Xiakan? I will deal with this matter, so don't worry, I won't let anyone harm you or our child." Dai Kang's voice may be low and weak, but it also brought with it an indescribable calming effect. "If my son encounters any danger as a result of this, I won't let any of you off." Her voice stern and decisive, almost like a vow. She doesn't care who the other person was or what sort of background they had. As long as they are out to hurt her son, Bai Yan will do anything and everything to stop them, even if it means costing her own life. "I promise you, if our son is hurt in any way, I will topple the entire demon realm for you if I must." Chapter 168, Return the Dowry 2. The man's arrogance and overbearing attitude left Bai Yan's heart trembling. Looking up, a flicker of hesitation filled her eyes. "Can I believe his words? I'll believe in you this time. I'll believe you are sincere about caring for Xiakan and will believe you will protect him as much as possible." Her pupils pristine and clear without any ulterior thoughts as she said it. This sort of statement should have been a very moving one, but after hearing it, Dai Kang's face only got darker. "What do you mean by this?" Breaking out a cold sneer. "Are you saying my feelings for you are false and fake?" Sensing the erupting anger from the man, Bai Yan quickly paced herself back several steps. "You told me that you are only haunting me because I don't disgust you. If you find another in the future with the same sensation, wouldn't you just go haunt the other party too?" Making an ironic smirk, Dai Kang felt no embarrassment for his words. "You think just anyone can be as unlucky as you, to be haunted by me?" Quote ellipsis. Quote. Bai Yan was stunned, so even he knows how unlucky it is to be haunted by him. "Bai Yan, you can believe it or not, but you are the only woman in all my years that don't disgust me. You are the first, and will also be the last." Boom. Like being blown apart in her mind, Bai Yan blankly stared at the enchanting man before her. What does he mean by this? Is this a confession? Just when Bai Yan was still in her shock, the man's lips had already pressed down against hers. Due to the immense strength of the hand holding her in place, she couldn't break free no matter how hard she pushed. Waiting until she was finally released, Bai Yan was stuck in a long turmoil before she can break out her question. "Dai Kang, is this your first time? Otherwise, why would he be constantly searching for me?" Getting dark lines running through his face, Dai Kang became unreadable. "You know too much." "OMG, I guessed it right." Retreating several steps again, Bai Yan urgently asked, "How old are you today?" 100,000. Quote ellipsis. Quote. Dai Kang didn't answer because he can already guess what sort of reaction this woman will make after learning his age. No doubt she will dislike himself for being old. "I didn't mean anything by that, I only wanted to know how many years you've been a virgin. Here, show me your arms, I really want to see if the rumors are true about long-time virgins having killing arms." "Killing arms? I'm not a killing, so why would you think I have that?" Dai Kang frowned, unsure where she's going with this. "The meaning of the killing arm is that, due to you being single for so long, there's no one around to relieve you. As such, you can only use your own hands to do it, hence the phrase, killing arm. It means you have very big muscle because you masturbated a lot." Not getting embarrassed or angered by the woman's crazy thought, Dai Kang only had a strange and confused look on his face. How can a hand solve that sort of thing? Quote ellipsis. Quote. She didn't know how to answer that question. Bai Yan merely forgot. In this world, it's pretty much a given that there won't be any lacking of females willing to help him solve that issue. In fact, it's not unheard of for wealthy families to find a young servant girl to help solve the young lord's necessity by having practice sessions ahead of time. Naturally, the one to suffer in such an interaction will be the bedding maids because it's quite common to be impregnated by the male. Then how do you normally solve your urge in the past? Don't tell me a bucket of cold water, I won't believe that. Before I met you, I never had the urge or need. Despite his long track record, it was exactly that same night from 6 years ago that ignited his flaming desire. And she also raped him. As soon as he recalled what happened 6 years ago, Dai Kang's teeth would start grinding. No matter what, he will get his revenge or die trying. Chapter 169, Return the Dowry 3. Is that right? Bai Yan throws a skeptic eye at Dai Kang's lower half. If he never had a reaction before, then what changed? I didn't even do anything. Noticing the wicked gaze from the devilish woman, Dai Kang's smile only got rosier. Now that you know so much, it's imperative that I don't let you go. In response, Bai Yan's face went dark. But it's you who told me everything. I don't care. I just know you are in on my secrets, so you have to stay by my side. Then I'm regretting asking you these questions. It's too late for that. Grinning, as if you can dump me so easily, you unlucky woman. Fine. If you really want to marry me, then you have to promise that you can't go for my bed until we are bonded. Otherwise, I will rather die than to accept you in the future. Contemplating the idea for a moment, Dai Kang finally replied, very well, I promise you. He's already waited 6 years, another while won't make a difference here. But when the time does come though, Dai Kang swears by his name that he will make her unable to leave the bed for 3 days straight. I'll go get someone to prepare the room for you. Bai Yan grits her teeth. Once your place is repaired, you are moving back. I'm all right with that. Without hesitation, the man answers on the spot. Repaired. Ho ho. That's only if it ever gets fixed. Slowly relaxing, Bai Yan had in fact lied here. When given enough time, she will use the opportunity to run with her son. It's not early anymore, so I'm going to rest. You serve yourself. After stating this, she swiftly rushed away, afraid the man would suddenly pounce at her again. Watching that departing back, Dai Kang's smile somehow manages to become even more enchanting. It seems it's time for me to get married. Ellipsis. Compared to the tranquility on this side, the Bai house on the other hand was in utter chaos. First was Dai Kang announcing to the world that they must return the dowry in order to save Bai Ji, then came the news that their youngest daughter was currently taking customers at the flower brothel. Despite their swift response to go investigate in person, none of the Bai family members could get inside the establishment. To add insult to the injury, the flower brothel wouldn't even recognize they had seized the girl. With no evidence and no way to confirm if the news was true, their only recourse was to check the prison. However, their efforts also hit a brick wall on this front. The only answer they got from the prison guards were, "You were mistaken, your daughter is still inside the cell." In the end, Yu Rong and Bai Zhengxiang can only cave in and submit to Dai Kang's demand. The wife ran to the palace to retrieve the accessories she's given away over the years, while the husband pressured his subordinate powers a second time to gather the funds. For a time, the entire nation was ran over with grief and anger. Some had even turned around to seek refuge under the land house. No matter how powerful a force was, if they lose the support of those below, it's a eventuality that another similar power would overtake the first. Bai Zhengxiang knew at least this much, but he can't be too picky at this point. By the time the dowries were cobbled together, another month had passed. I will go match the dowries here with the list at the office. If even one thing is missing, I will have you puke it back out. Bai Yan coldly stares down at the red-eyed man that's supposed to be her father. Bai Yan, are you really going to go this far to completely disregard our father and daughter bond? The man's eye was full of anger. Tell me honestly, was it you who had Dai Kang persecute us? Lowering her teacup, Bai Yan only scoffed a laugh. Whether it's me or not, the fact remains that these belong to me. And this is just the first step. Don't forget, everything that you have today is the result of my mother being overly infatuated with you. Or do you think those damn pills are without consequences? The man sneered. I've already returned what needs to be returned, and the pills are already consumed by me. Do you expect me to spit 'em back out? I won't have you spit 'em back out. Bai Yan paused, letting her dreadful smile take hold. But I can have your strength revert back to the stage where you never ate the pills. Chapter 170, Threat 1. Bai Zhengxiang shuddered at the statement because he's got the strange feeling that this girl would surely carry out her threat today. Bai Yan, I'm your father. Tightly clenching those fists, his eyes burned with rage. Must you push us over the edge? If you don't want to let your strength revert back to before, then return the pills in which my mother gave you. From the day she returned to this place, Bai Yan had already made the decision to take back everything that once belonged to her mother. No more, no less. Bai Zhengxiang's eyes were full of mockery. I originally didn't want to go too far based on our relationship, but now that you are willing to ignore the bond between us, then don't blame me. Pricking her brow, huh? Can it be, this man still has something in his hands that can threaten me? I know what you've been doing recently. Bai Zhengxiang's expression turned cold. The reason why you can be so arrogant is because of the Flower Brothers' backing. Otherwise, where would you find the courage to make so much clamor in front of me? Laughing hard in her stomach, Bai Yan had trouble keeping herself from breaking into tears. Oh, isn't that ironic? There's some people here who can't even get in touch with the flower brothel when they try. Leaning leisurely on the chair, a gorgeous smile arose from her face. Prior to this, Bai Zhengxiang had tried several times to make a visit to this old manor after learning it belongs to the flower brothel. Unfortunately for him, the guards would drive him away at every turn, let alone let him step inside. If not for this case, Bai Yan would never allow such an evil-hearted man to come here. Bai Zhengxiang's face sank. Bai Yan, you finally admit it, eh? Admit what? Asked Bai Yan, her eyes confused. Admit that you are the leading prostitute of the flower brothel. Sad in his face, Bai Zhengxiang looked exactly like a father that's disappointed over his daughter's lost way. Bai Yan was dumbfounded here. Leading prostitute, and it's me who admitted it. How come I didn't know about this? Without paying heed to the strange frowning expression on his daughter's face, Bai Zhengxiang continues on with his ignorant ramble. I know back then it was you who wronged you, but you are not a good person either. Otherwise, how can you become the leading prostitute inside the flower brothel in merely 5 years? If Lord Kang were to learn of this matter, what would he think of you? Would he still marry you? Not getting angry, Bai Yan instead broke out into a fitting laugh. And who is it that told you this? You don't need to know who told me this, you just need to know I now control your deepest secret. His eyes gloomy as he states this. I originally wanted to keep this secret hidden away because of our bond, but now that you won't let the Bai house go, it's only fair I turn this around. Likewise, I won't let you or the land house go. Watching the beaming confidence in the man's eye, Bai Yan's interest was honestly piqued here. So what is it that you want? She's not going to waste words here. Even if she denies the accusation, it's a certainty this dumb man will keep pushing the idea. If that's the case, she might as well pry out whatever plans he has in mind. I have already brought back Lan Yu's dowry, but I will also take him back with me in a bit. When the time comes, you can just tell Lord Kang that you've received them. From the very beginning, he had never intended to return these dowries. The reasoning for why he had gathered everything was mainly because of Dai Kang's men watching his every move. But whether or not Bai Yan really accepted these dowries were another matter. That's something out of Lord Kang's control. Smearing. Bai Yan's gaze was full of ridicule. And why should I do as you wish? Because I know you are the leading prostitute of the flower brothel, that's why. Pompous in his posture, he confidently raises his chin. In addition, I also want you to tell Lord Kang that the one from 6 years ago is your sister Ji and not you. End of the chapter. Adorable treasured fox divine Dr. Mother Overturning the Heavens, will be read in 10 chapters for every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday and Sunday. Please leave this sound novel and press subscribe, follow, and the bell so you don't miss any new clips as well. See you.